In this meeting, we eventually started Chapter 7 of the Enjoy Life Forever book with our JW friends. Again, we had another new person in the group. But before she arrived, the study leader and I got into quite a discussion about the 3+ hour presentation she had invited me to watch called 6 Days That Changed the World Virtual Bible Tour. If you remember from an earlier video, I mentioned this tour and that we got into some pretty intense discussion about it. That's what we'll start with today. There were so many head-shaking moments in this video that honestly, I needed a few little breaks at times. It makes me so sad that all these JWs just listen and enjoy the graphics, never thinking to question anything the guy is saying. Because if Watchtower approves it, it must all be truth. At least until scientists change something. Then that's truth, and they all collectively forget the earlier old light truth. I thought this would be a good opportunity to really push hard about what they were presenting here, because all of the science the presenter kept referencing was straight from evolutionists. And some of the details he got into are even disputed among mainstream scientists, though he presented it all as if it's settled fact. Watchtower says right now that they reject evolution, yet they believe pretty much everything evolutionists teach. This really makes me wonder what new light is coming for them down the road that might make them feel like they're more appealing to prospective new members. Watchtower doesn't have any of its own scientists, of course, because that would require an education, which is basically forbidden in the org. But the young guy in this video presented things as if he were an expert. So, as I often do, I decided to look into it further and see if I could figure out who he was and what his credentials were. It actually wasn't hard to find. He was subtly presented to JWs as if he were a paleontologist, which I don't think he has ever claimed. You'll hear her talking about him in this meeting as if that's what he is, and she would never question it. But in fact, he is a fossil prep technician, which is actually a volunteer position in some museums, who happens to have some interest in paleontology. He's also an artist. That in itself would be fine if it weren't for how they tried to suggest he was some kind of leading authority on everything he was talking about. One of the things I wanted to really get into with my questions is how she would feel if they do present new light that evolution is true. Of course, she went into a number of different directions and didn't want to answer that directly. But my hope and prayer is that if they do go down that path, it strikes both her and the other JW lady hard and maybe helps them to start waking up. I realize I could be totally wrong with my speculation on this potential change, but I do see Watchtower doing exactly what the LDS has been doing for years now, trying to appeal more and more to the world in order to try and gain lots of new recruits. So maybe I'm totally off base with this one, but maybe not.
So there's someone else joining us today.
Oh, another person, okay.
Yeah. Oh, what did you think of the bus tour?
Yeah, I did. Well, okay, I put it on for the whole time, and I ran it on my computer, so then I could just do other things with it. So I did kind of cut out periodically to go and make food or, whatever. Yeah. So I didn't catch all of it.
It was kind of long.
It was. I didn't know it was going to be that long. And then the questions after kept going and going. I'm like, is this ever going to end?
Yeah. I should have said you can, but I can't remember if I said it or not. Just log off whenever you.
Oh yeah. I figured, because it's.
But kind of a different look of it. Hey.
It was definitely. I did find it interesting. From the stuff that he was saying and the science resources he was using, I'm familiar with, I have this friend who is, he's what he calls a theistic evolutionist. So he believes God created the Big Bang, and then he believes in, of course, billions of years, and he believes in evolution. And they have this foundation that he contributes to, and so the stuff I was hearing this guy, it sounds like he might have actually even been reading it from there. Like it sounded so exactly like what they say, like the two books. Like you caught that part near the beginning that they were talking about the Bible is one book, and then like General Creation or Creation, Creation is another book. That's straight out of their lectures. That's where I first heard that. So
well, they do take from from the latest science as well.
Or certain scientists, I guess, because different scientists disagree with each other, right? So that was interesting, because I thought, well, like, I was wondering, that made me think, like, because it was so in line with what they teach. I know the Watchtower changes their teachings periodically. Do you think they might be moving?
There's new light.
So do you think they might be moving towards evolution? And how would you feel if they did? Like, if they changed it to say that God used evolution?
Well, see, evolution. Okay, so like things can adapt to change.
Oh, sure.
Circumstances. But evolution, we know that the basis of evolution is that, we come from animals. We know that we didn't.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, like, just because of if they're looking at the science that these people are looking at, that's where you would end up. So that's what I was wondering, what you would feel about that if they did start embracing evolution. Because that would be one minor change from everything else they said.
Yeah, but I'm like 100% confident they would never, because Jesus always referred to the first man and woman. So everything is from the Bible. So everything, like scientific. See, the thing is with science and the Bible, a lot of people have a misconception that they contradict each other. But actually, science and the Bible actually complement each other.
Right, and that's what this website says too. They would say that it, like, I know my friend, I've watched him go down this path of where things have changed for him. And he would say that the references to Adam and Eve are poetic or symbolic, and so he believes that Adam and Eve represents the original kind of human race as a whole, would have been much larger and would have evolved into that.
But we know that what Jesus said, that he referred to Adam and Eve as real historical.
I agree. I agree. But my friend he's a qualified, he's a doctor. He's teaches, he's a scientific professor. And like, he would say that there's a way to defend that as well. I remember exact his
but there is the literal, and Jesus always referred to the first man and woman.
I agree.
And God created them. He was there to observe it, and he
he made them.
And that's that's a fact. That they were from Adam and Eve. That's where sin had entered, and that's basically the whole theme of the Bible, of just how imperfection came into the human family, and we all die. We all grow old, get sick, suffer, and die because it's Satan's challenge of, you do not need to listen to God. God gave him everything, perfection.
In considering how Watchtower might move towards promoting evolution, one major thing they would have to focus on is how they always promote their Paradise Earth gospel, because it's so foundational to their entire structure. How do you do that without a literal Adam and Eve? Well, if anyone can do it, Watchtower can, right? It would actually kind of fit with the view they already hold that the literal 1,000 years will include a kind of evolving towards perfection. You can see how they might tweak that one a little bit, but it could all work together if they wanted to do it. So it'll be interesting to see if they ever do.
If Adam and Eve never sinned, their offspring, we wouldn't, we would still live forever. Like, death was only a consequence of sin, of disobedience. If you eat from the tree, you will die. And Eve acknowledged that. She said, God said not to touch it because we will die. And Satan tried to mislead her by means of the serpent. And he said that you will not die. You'll become like God, knowing good and bad. And so Eve disobeyed. And because God is a God of justice, that had to come true. Like, they had to die because that was the consequence of not listening to Adam and Eve, or to him in the beginning. And so, you think of like, you just, the more we get to understand the Bible and the message, why Jesus came to earth, he came to replace that perfect life that Adam had lost. Because no imperfect human after Adam and Eve could replace the ransom sacrifice that another perfect individual could pay back to God. So because Adam was perfect, Jesus was perfect, he was sinless, he was obedient, he went back and he offered the ransom of perfect life to pay back what Adam had lost for all of his offspring. So now we have the opportunity to go back to God's original purpose for the human family, because of that ransom sacrifice, of living in that garden-like paradise earth that he had originally created, this beautiful earth for humans to live on. And so this is his purpose is eternal, and it hasn't changed, and it's because of Jesus' sacrifice that we can have that hope again. And so the whole theme of the Bible is really God's undeserved kindness and his gift to each one of us of having a beautiful, endless life and a relationship with him. And we see how Satan has entered the scene, and we're still living in the time where Satan's influence is still here. He's misleading humans, just like he did in the Garden of Eden. He misleaded humans, to basically hide God from them. And still today he's very active. But Jesus said that his kingdom, like when he comes, he's going to abyss Satan, and people will be able to come back to that fresh start.
You were talking about initially I came in about the age of the earth and things like that, right?
Yeah, that's what we, that's what I was asking about, that. The evolution thing.
Yeah. Well, science has proven, like a lot of modern science is quite new, like the discoveries, like even the earth being round, Isaac Newton, that was...
People always knew that. It was just actually a small group that decided that...
Was that guy that talked on that video conference? What was his credentials again? What was he?
So he's a paleontologist, and he works at the museum that he took us to the Bible tour.
Hello.
Oh, hi. Hi. Nice to meet you. Yeah. So, have you ever seen any of the Bible tours?
I did. It was one of the museum ones.
Was it the 6 Days of Creation? Was it the paleontologist?
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Was it the museum in Israel or something like that? Oh, okay.
In Britain.
Oh.
I can't remember what it was called now. What the title was.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a while ago.
There's quite a few tours actually that's offered.
Yeah.
And there was one that I was able to watch, which was really cool, was African Safari.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he works in the park. He's a tour guide, and he took us around on this tour. And I always wanted to go on an African safari, right?
Yeah.
But it was a virtual African safari.
Yeah.
But he basically, at the end, he was like, I'm surprised how much you guys saw today. Jehovah must really, he goes to Toronto. He was kind of joking, but like it was cool to see how much we saw.
Yeah, we were. I was wondering about that because I was curious who he was and what his credentials were. And I know somebody asked in the chat. I don't know if you saw that. Asked what his credentials were.
Yeah.
And no one answered specifically. Where are we? But I looked up his name and I found him on Instagram, where he's promoting all the tours and everything.
Oh, okay.
And he actually what he called himself. I'd have to look it up again. I can't remember. He's a fossil caretaker or something like that.
Oh, he cleans the fossils.
Yeah. Which is more like a volunteer position that doesn't require any training. So. I guess I would wonder if he really is a paleontologist. Did you see that somewhere?
No, I didn't. I couldn't find any information about it.
Yeah, because I was just curious, because he sounded like he was very authoritative, but then I was wondering, did he just get that information from websites like I mentioned, Biologos, or certain scientists, and what their
What was
views
his name
are?
again?
Well, I mean,
Evan
they do
something.
find
Oh, I
the
just had that
latest
up.
research on science, and in his introductory, he did say that he cleaned the fossils. And, and he also.
It was interesting that she mentioned this because now she's sort of backtracking on her previous claim that he's a paleontologist. I don't know that she was using theocratic warfare here, though, because other JWs who are watching this video seem to have the same impression as she did. I think it's just that because it's a Watchtower production, there is no need for them to get into all that pesky researching and questioning and thinking. Easier to just take in all the knowledge they're being fed.
So looked at, or he looks for bones himself.
Oh, sure, yeah, and that's I think, like, I was looking at other museums that hire that position, or they don't hire, it's volunteer, right?
Okay.
But so they basically require that you're good with your hands and that you have an interest in fossils, basically. So it's not a scientific degree or anything like that, but
to be honest, I don't know much about him. I've
No,
never
yeah.
really looked into it, but he
Yeah.
the information he was giving was based on science and research. Also, I mean, was there anything that you questioned that he said?
You know what, there were. I'd have to go back through my notes
Yeah.
and see that. Like, my husband was listening to some of it too, because I had it on in the living room.
Yeah.
He loves watching documentaries about science and fossils and dinosaurs and history and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, no, like, through a bunch of things. He's like, no, that's not right. Okay, where do you get that from? And
but you only agree that the Earth was created in what, 6,000 years?
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, but yeah, my husband has been an old earther for a long time, so he wasn't looking at it as like, oh, well, that's wrong because the Earth is too young for that. He was looking at more just scientifically what scientists have said over the years versus what some scientists say now. Like, everybody's science is different, right? So it's like you can't really, that whole trust the science. Well, the science is about testing, right?
Right. But they have proven that the Earth is, over 4 billion years, and the universe is.
What is the proof exactly? Like, I think there's
they look at
opinions.
The fossils. They go and find.
But the fossils themselves are just evidence, and they're evidence as much of being young as they are being really old, right? So it's just more your presuppositions that you bring to it. So that's why I would say, like, fossils are not evidence. We can't go back in time and test them to see if they're really evidence.
So do you believe that there was dinosaurs on this Earth?
Absolutely, yeah, and they weren't killed in the flood. That's not what Christians have ever believed.
But he never said that.
He did. He said that's what Christendom believes. Yeah.
Oh, Christendom. He said,
yeah.
Well, they were distinct from different. He said there's different understandings of Christendom.
Yeah.
Christendom is, with Christendom, you can get from A to Z of different perspectives.
Well, that's the thing. There's historic Orthodox, and then there's a whole giant range of people that call themselves Christian that may or may not be, right? Yeah, he also said, I know it was probably just a generalization, but it was kind of like, what? It was like where he said, Christendom believes the Earth is only a few thousand years old. Like, that nobody believes it's a few thousand years old. Like, that's, does not fit with anything. Doesn't fit with the Bible. And I like actually that same scientist that I sent you, that Mandelbrot video, he says, if you want to know the history, and he's an astrophysicist, if you want to know what the history of the world is, well, the Bible is like the birth certificate of the world.
Of course.
So it tells us.
Of course.
And scientists like to put their opinion. I don't want to get stuck in this because it's such a minor thing, but scientists because they believe in evolution. The majority of scientists in our culture believe in evolution. To defend it, the universe has to be older and older and older. This is why you can see, if you look throughout what they say is the science of how old the Earth is or how old the universe is, it keeps getting longer and longer as they start defending more and more evolution. So that's their purpose for billions of years, many, and then more and more and more billions of years. So in 10 years from now, they'll have way more billions of years than they have right now because...
Well, the universe keeps expanding. the universe.
Yeah, not really not the point though. We're talking about from the Big Bang and then from there. So we're not talking about like where things go in space in the future or anything, but to defend evolution, which is a whole, like I've listened to a lot of the debates and discussions on evolution because it's interesting. I don't agree with it. I don't believe it. I think scientifically it makes no sense whatsoever. But nonetheless, I listen to that, especially because I have a friend who teaches it. He's a professor at a major university who teaches it and also calls himself a Christian. I don't believe he actually is a Christian, but...
Yeah. So I'm confused though. Like, what is your perspective? Like, do you believe evolution?
Did I not just tell her that I don't believe in evolution? I'm thinking this is maybe a Watchtower tactic that she was probably using because she was outside her comfort zone with this conversation and wanted to get herself out of the hot seat. So she redirected back on me with any question she could quickly come up with. No, I do not. Okay. But I do like to look at all of the views. This is why we're here, right?
Yeah.
I like to understand what your views are, and I like to understand what my friend's views are.
Yeah.
Even if I disagree with him, I want to represent him accurately, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's interesting. What are their arguments, and why? What kind of logic are they using? Is it legitimate? Like evidence doesn't speak, right? It doesn't speak. We look at it, we examine it, and we make decisions and opinions on it. And on science, like local current science, we can test things.
Yeah,
right?
and we're constantly discovering things, like the James Webb new telescope.
Right,
is
exactly.
Discovering new.
Yeah.
So we're constantly learning, and then you think of like just science, how it's discovering certain facts that were in the Bible thousands of years ago.
Right.
But the understanding before this, they had ideas of the Earth. Like for example, the Earth for a long time they thought that the Earth was resting on something.
Yeah.
And like if you think about that logically, how it we wouldn't really assume that the Earth is just floating. But because of science, we've come to understand that yes, the Earth is in space. The Earth is floating and hanging on nothing. But in fact, the Bible actually had written that in very simple language way before scientists have come to this conclusion. So there's theories of all kinds of different things, but the Bible is always accurate.
Right. Yeah, we agree.
Yeah. And so going back to like even Adam and Eve, and Jesus had referred that as fact, and like the 6 days of creation, science is actually discovering that each process actually contributed, is accurate with science with what they're finding.
Sure. Yeah.
And how he had mentioned that the Big Bang was actually, scientists, some may say that was just an explosion of random chaos.
Right.
Said, in fact,
it's all theory. Yeah.
But that's not the fact. Like the Big Bang was actually an explosion of power and God's power. It's like the universe coming into existence.
Yeah.
And God created everything. Like we had even talked about previous studies how we see the wisdom in creation. There's intelligence, there's mind, there's
creativity.
There's creativity. Biomimetics, they copy, engineers and scientists, they copy and borrow things from creation because they see like the wisdom and they learn from it, and they copy basically God's wisdom and put it into their own creativity and work with that. So we see that the Bible is in line with science, actually. It's not contrary to science. But what he was saying about Christendom is there's all kinds of different ideas that they headbutt. Like science and the Bible, they don't come together.
From Christendom, you think Christendom disagrees with the Bible? Is that what he's saying?
No. He said there's a vast amount of ideas theories. You can talk to, in the same denomination even. You talk to a couple different individuals and ask them certain questions. I'm sure you'll get different ideas, different understandings of what they feel or what they think that means.
Can you give an example? Something to remember in these sorts of discussions is that science doesn't discover things. Scientists discover and present their take on things they are investigating. They can't go back in time and examine things as they happened in history. So in reality, everything scientists claim about history and the age of the universe is speculation based on their presuppositions. I didn't get into that with her because I think that would have been too much for her to take while she was already feeling outside of her comfort zone with my questions. Another thing I should mention is that this whole video had a very clear anti-Christendom theme and anti-creationism theme, which we would expect from Watchtower videos anyway. It essentially took the perspective of secularists in order to poke fun at Christians. Pretty standard, right? In the next video, we'll start here and get into some more discussion about what they think of Christendom and what they think it even is, and then eventually, finally, start in on Chapter 7.